President Obama's visit to Baton Rouge in the aftermath of the devastating floods carried a profound emotional weight that extended far beyond the spoken words, "You're not alone." These words acted as an anchor of reassurance for families who had lost their homes, for communities that had been torn apart by the overwhelming force of nature, and for individuals who were struggling to cope with the fear and uncertainty of what the future held. When Obama delivered this message, it was not merely a statement designed for news cameras or prepared speeches. Rather, it emerged from a deep understanding of what communities feel when disaster strips away their sense of normalcy. People were grieving their losses, possessions collected over decades, memories preserved in photographs and keepsakes, homes built with immense love and sacrifice. The phrase, "You're not alone," functioned as a promise, a commitment, and a symbol of national unity. It reminded everyone that in times of extreme hardship, the entire country stands behind them. The emotional and symbolic power of a presidential visit cannot be underestimated. When a president arrives at a disaster zone, it signifies that the nation recognizes the magnitude of the suffering, validates the pain of the affected communities, and acknowledges the seriousness of the crisis. For many residents of Baton Rouge, seeing President Obama walk through their neighborhoods offered a deeply needed sense of validation. Many had felt that the national attention had not fully captured the scale of the devastation. Dozens of neighborhoods were submerged, cars floated down highways, and thousands were displaced. People felt isolated, overwhelmed, and in some cases forgotten. When Obama looked residents in the eyes, shook their hands, and listened to their stories, it dissolved that feeling of abandonment. His presence served as a reminder that the struggles of Baton Rouge were not being ignored. The nation was watching, the government cared, support was on the way. Obama's tone and demeanor during the visit also played a crucial role in strengthening that message of unity. He did not approach the situation as a distant leader, but as someone genuinely connected to the pain and resilience of the people standing before him. He took the time to greet families standing in the ruins of what once were their homes. He spoke gently to elderly residents who had lost everything, comforted parents who worried about their children's safety and futures, and encouraged young volunteers who were helping to clean and rebuild. By showing empathy through physical presence, eye contact, and attentive listening, Obama reinforced the sense that the federal government was not an abstract institution. It was made of people who cared, who understood, and who were ready to stand beside the community. The phrase, "You're not alone," also carried a deeper meaning tied to the American spirit. Throughout the history of the United States, communities have faced natural disasters, economic hardships, and unexpected tragedies. Each time, the resilience of the people shines through, but that resilience becomes even more powerful when reinforced by collective support. Obama acknowledged that people in Baton Rouge had shown remarkable strength, courage, and selflessness even in the darkest moments. He pointed out how neighbors rescued each other using small boats, how strangers offered shelter to displaced families, and how volunteers traveled from different states to help with cleanup efforts. This spirit of compassion, he noted, was not limited to Louisiana, but reflected the national character. By saying, "You're not alone," he tied the local acts of kindness to a larger, national narrative of unity and solidarity. Another vital aspect of Obama's message was the recognition that emotional trauma lingers long after the floodwaters recede. While immediate physical damages, destroyed houses, ruined streets, collapsed infrastructure, are visibly apparent, the emotional scars often remain hidden. The sudden destruction of homes, the loss of security, and the disruption of daily life can create deep psychological distress. Obama's visit indirectly addressed this emotional dimension. By reassuring residents that they were not alone, he acknowledged the emotional burden they carried, validating their fears and anxieties. His message acted as emotional support that complemented the material aid being provided by government agencies. In disaster recovery, emotional reassurance can be just as vital as financial or logistical support. It helps people rebuild not only their homes, but their sense of hope and stability. Obama also framed the disaster within a broader context, reminding the people of Baton Rouge that the nation had faced and survived many challenges before. Whether it was hurricanes, tornadoes, economic crises, or acts of violence, Americans have shown an extraordinary ability to recover and rebuild. This historical perspective was meant to strengthen the community's resolve. By positioning the people of Baton Rouge within this larger narrative of American resilience, he effectively told them that recovery was not impossible. It was difficult, painful, and overwhelming, but it was achievable because they were part of a nation that had repeatedly overcome adversity. This perspective aimed to instill confidence and motivation, encouraging residents to continue pushing forward even when the recovery process seemed slow or discouraging. In the broader national conversation, Obama's words served as a reminder of the interconnectedness of American communities. Even if someone lived thousands of miles away and had never visited Louisiana, the suffering of Baton Rouge residents was a national concern. This perspective countered the sense that disasters are isolated events that only impact those directly affected. Instead, Obama emphasized that every American has a role, big or small, in supporting communities in crisis. Whether through donations, volunteer efforts, or prayers, people across the country could contribute to the healing and rebuilding process. His message encouraged a nationwide mindset of empathy and responsibility. By expanding the emotional circle of concern, he reminded the nation that unity is not just a slogan, it is a practice carried out in moments of crisis. President Obama's reassurance also had an important political and governmental dimension. When federal leaders promise support, it signals that long-term assistance will be available. For Baton Rouge residents who worried about the cost of rebuilding and the uncertainty of returning to normal life, the assurance that they were not alone served as a guarantee that financial, logistical, and administrative resources would continue to flow into the region. This commitment extended beyond immediate relief. Long-term rebuilding efforts, restoring infrastructure, repairing schools, reconstructing homes, and helping displaced families find stability, require sustained engagement. Obama's message signaled that the federal government was fully committed to providing this long-term support. It was not a one-time visit or temporary display of sympathy. It was a pledge of continued partnership in the recovery journey. Furthermore, the message carried symbolic importance during a time of political division nationwide. By focusing on shared humanity rather than political differences, Obama reinforced the idea that crises demand unity rather than separation. Floodwaters do not discriminate by political party, race, religion, or income level. Similarly, recovery efforts must rise above division. His visit and message implicitly encouraged Americans to see each other not through political lenses, but as individuals bound by common experiences, vulnerabilities, and hopes. In this sense, "You're not alone" was also a call for national unity during a polarized time. In summary, the expansion of this key point reveals how profoundly meaningful Obama's reassurance was for the people of Baton Rouge. It served as emotional comfort, political promise, national reflection, and a symbol of unity. It strengthened the community's resolve, validated their pain, connected them to the broader American family, and reinforced the federal government's commitment to their recovery. In moments of disaster, words can be powerful tools for healing, and Obama's message became a foundational moment in the emotional recovery of the region. The commitment President Obama expressed toward federal assistance and long-term recovery in Baton Rouge went far beyond a routine policy promise. It represented a comprehensive, deeply structured approach to understanding what a community needs not only in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, but also throughout the long, painful, and often exhausting months that follow. When Obama spoke about federal support, he acknowledged that the devastation in Louisiana was not something that could be addressed in days or even weeks. It was a disaster that had uprooted lives, destroyed years of hard work, and left tens of thousands of residents displaced, uncertain, and afraid. By explaining that recovery would be long-term, he provided clarity that the federal government would not withdraw once the national attention faded. His message assured people that help would continue arriving, and it recognized the complexity of rebuilding lives after such massive destruction. One of the crucial elements Obama highlighted was the role of FEMA. Many residents depended on FEMA for emergency housing, financial support, and resources to begin repairing or replacing what the floods destroyed. For families who had lost everything, homes, clothing, furniture, important documents, or vehicles, FEMA assistance became a lifeline. Obama emphasized that the federal government was committed to making sure that the process for receiving aid was as smooth as possible. He acknowledged that bureaucracy can create obstacles during natural disasters, and he directed agencies to cut red tape wherever possible so that families would not be burdened by unnecessary delays. His message reminded residents that FEMA was not just an organization responding to an event. It was a partner walking beside them through every stage of the recovery process. Beyond FEMA's immediate emergency functions, Obama discussed the broader networks of federal agencies involved in long-term rebuilding. When a natural disaster of this magnitude strikes, it affects every part of daily life: education, healthcare, transportation, business, and community safety. Obama recognized these layers and explained that federal support had to be coordinated across multiple departments. For example, the Department of Housing and Urban Development (HUD) worked alongside FEMA to help residents find long-term housing solutions. The Small Business Administration (SBA) offered loans to business owners who had lost their storefronts, equipment, or products in the floodwaters. These loans were crucial not only for restoring businesses, but for keeping jobs alive in Baton Rouge. Without them, economic stability in the region could collapse, creating long-term consequences far beyond the initial disaster. Another critical element of long-term recovery involved infrastructure rebuilding. Roads, bridges, public buildings, and utilities had been severely damaged. Obama recognized that restoring infrastructure would take time and significant federal investment. He emphasized that infrastructure is not just about physical structures. It is about restoring the foundation upon which communities function. When roads remain damaged, children cannot get to school safely, workers cannot commute to their jobs, and emergency services struggle to reach those who need help. Obama reassured residents that federal engineers, planners, and funding programs were already mobilized to assess and repair the damage. He reminded the community that infrastructure rebuilding is not a temporary mission, but an investment that will serve future generations. In addition to physical infrastructure, Obama discussed long-term recovery in terms of emotional, social, and economic resilience. He acknowledged that rebuilding neighborhoods is not simply about replacing walls and roofs. It is also about restoring a sense of community. In many neighborhoods, families lived next to each other for decades. The floods had scattered people across shelters, relatives' homes, temporary rentals, and hotels. These separations created emotional strain and uncertainty about whether communities would ever be fully re-established. Obama assured residents that federal programs would support community-based rebuilding efforts, encouraging neighborhoods to return as close to their original state as possible. He emphasized the importance of people feeling connected to each other, knowing that community bonds are just as essential to recovery as financial assistance. Obama also spoke about the importance of supporting schools during the recovery process. Natural disasters disrupt education, and many children in Baton Rouge had lost their school supplies, uniforms, or even their school buildings. Families were overwhelmed with figuring out housing, transportation, and financial stability, making it difficult to focus on education. Obama explained that federal assistance would extend to schools as well, helping them rebuild, replace damaged materials, and create stable learning environments for returning students. He highlighted the role of education as a stabilizing force for children and parents alike. When children return to school, families regain a sense of normalcy. It becomes easier for parents to return to work, focus on rebuilding efforts, and manage their responsibilities without constant worry about childcare or interrupted learning. Another area Obama focused on was healthcare. Floods often lead to long-term health risks, including mold exposure, injuries sustained during cleanup, mental health trauma, and disrupted access to medical services. Many clinics and hospitals had been affected by the rising waters, causing delays in treatment and limiting access to medication. Obama emphasized that federal health agencies would provide support to affected facilities and ensure that residents maintained access to essential medical care. He highlighted the importance of addressing both physical and mental health in long-term recovery. Trauma from natural disasters can linger for months or years, affecting sleep patterns, emotional balance, and overall well-being. By including mental health support in the federal response, Obama acknowledged that healing requires more than rebuilding houses. It requires rebuilding lives. Central to Obama's message was transparency. He emphasized that the government would keep residents informed about what resources were available, how to apply for them, and what to expect in each stage of the recovery process. He recognized that uncertainty is one of the most painful parts of disaster recovery. People want to know how long they will be displaced, how soon they can rebuild, whether their insurance will cover the damages, and whether they can rely on consistent assistance. Obama's promise of transparency reassured residents that they would not be left in the dark. Government agencies were directed to improve communication, simplify application processes, and provide clear updates as rebuilding progressed. Obama also stressed that long-term recovery was not just the responsibility of the federal government, but a collaboration between local leaders, state authorities, nonprofit organizations, and community members. He praised the dedication of Louisiana's local officials who had worked tirelessly to coordinate evacuations, shelter families, and manage the immediate crisis. He acknowledged the courage and resilience of community organizations that stepped up to provide food, clothing, and emotional support. He emphasized that federal assistance would empower these local efforts rather than replace them. The recovery would be most successful when all levels of leadership worked together in unity. He also addressed the issue of insurance and financial stress. Many residents were overwhelmed by the cost of repairs, uncertainty about insurance claims, and fear about how they would rebuild their financial lives. Obama reassured them that federal grants, loans, and aid programs were designed to reduce that burden. He recognized that families were dealing with not only physical losses but also financial devastation. Some had lost their entire savings, others had mortgages on homes that were now uninhabitable, and many did not know where to start. His message was clear: the federal government would help them stabilize, recover, and rebuild without carrying the full weight alone. In the broader context, Obama framed the Baton Rouge disaster as a reflection of the increasing need for strong disaster preparedness and resilience across the nation. He explained that natural disasters were becoming more frequent and severe, and the federal government was committed to improving its response capabilities. Long-term recovery in Baton Rouge would serve as a model for how communities could rebuild stronger, safer, and more resilient to future disasters. This meant not just replacing damaged structures, but rethinking building methods, improving drainage systems, and investing in stronger infrastructure. Obama wanted residents to understand that the goal was not simply to return to the past, but to build a future that could better withstand the challenges ahead. By emphasizing long-term recovery, Obama gave the residents of Baton Rouge something invaluable: hope backed by action. He reminded them that the road ahead would be difficult, but they would not walk it alone. The government would remain a steady presence, providing resources, support, and partnership. The promise of long-term assistance allowed families to breathe, even if only slightly, knowing they were not expected to rebuild entirely on their own. It helped transform overwhelming despair into a sense of direction. In essence, Obama's message about federal assistance was not just a policy outline, but a commitment to human dignity. It recognized the depth of the suffering, the complexity of the recovery, and the strength of the community. He made it clear that the government's responsibility did not end when the cameras left. Instead, it would extend into the months and years needed to fully restore the lives, homes, and hopes of the people of Baton Rouge. President Obama's recognition of first responders, volunteers, and everyday citizens during his visit to Baton Rouge was much more than a routine expression of gratitude. It was a deeply meaningful acknowledgement of the extraordinary courage, compassion, and humanity that emerged in the midst of overwhelming disaster. In times of tragedy, it is often ordinary individuals who rise to extraordinary heights, and Obama took great care to honor that reality. By highlighting the sacrifices and efforts of first responders and volunteers, he emphasized that the true strength of a nation is revealed not only through its institutions, but through the actions of its people. His words reminded the country that when disaster strikes, the courage of individuals becomes a source of hope, resilience, and unity for entire communities. When Obama spoke about first responders, he did so with a genuine sense of admiration. These were individuals who had rushed into danger when everyone else was trying to escape it. Firefighters, police officers, medical teams, National Guard members, and rescue units all played critical roles in saving lives during the flooding. Many worked non-stop for days without rest, risking their own safety to ensure the safety of others. They navigated dangerous floodwaters, conducted rescue missions in neighborhoods that had turned into lakes, and responded to desperate calls from stranded families. Some used small boats to reach individuals trapped on rooftops or clinging to debris. Others waded through chest-deep water carrying children, elderly residents, or pets to higher ground. Their actions were not driven by duty alone. They were driven by a profound sense of responsibility and humanity. Obama emphasized that first responders exemplify the highest values of public service. They do not ask for recognition or reward. Their motivation comes from an unwavering commitment to protect the lives of others. During his visit, he spoke with many of these responders, listening to their experiences and expressing his gratitude face to face. He understood that their sacrifices often go unnoticed beyond the immediate crisis. Many responders had lost their own homes or experienced personal hardship during the floods, yet they continued to serve others without hesitation. Obama's recognition validated their sacrifices and reminded the nation of the immense debt owed to these everyday heroes. In addition to professional first responders, Obama highlighted the remarkable contributions of countless volunteers who stepped forward during the flooding. These were ordinary citizens, teachers, students, neighbors, church members, business owners, who transformed into rescuers, helpers, and supporters when their community needed them most. Some used their personal boats to rescue strangers they had never met. Others opened their homes to displaced families, offering food, clothing, and shelter. Volunteers filled sandbags, distributed supplies, delivered meals, and helped families salvage what little remained from their homes. Their actions demonstrated that heroism is not limited to those trained for emergencies. It can be found in anyone willing to act with compassion, generosity, and courage. Obama's recognition of volunteers was a celebration of the unity that disasters often reveal. In Baton Rouge, people did not ask about political beliefs, race, income, or background before helping. They acted from a place of shared humanity. This unity is what Obama sought to elevate. He wanted the country to understand that these acts of kindness were not simply local anecdotes. They were powerful examples of what it means to be American. When people face suffering together, differences fade, and the instinct to help becomes universal. Obama used the platform of his presidency to shine a light on this deeply human response, reminding the nation that compassion is one of its greatest strengths. One of the symbolic moments of Obama's visit was when he met with families who had been rescued by ordinary citizens. These families shared stories of how neighbors and strangers saved their lives by showing up at the right moment. Some recounted how people knocked on doors urging residents to evacuate before the waters rose too high. Others spoke of volunteers who formed human chains to help elderly individuals cross fast, moving water. Obama listened closely to these stories because each one illustrated a truth he wanted the nation to recognize: that heroism thrives in difficult times, often in the quiet actions of people whose names will never appear in headlines. Obama also emphasized the emotional and psychological impact of volunteerism. In the aftermath of a disaster, people often feel overwhelmed and isolated. They face the trauma of loss, uncertainty, and fear. Volunteers provide more than physical assistance. They offer emotional reassurance. A warm meal, a donated blanket, or even a simple conversation can restore a sense of hope in someone who feels broken. Obama recognized that the emotional healing process is just as important as physical rebuilding. When volunteers show kindness, they help restore dignity and comfort to those who have lost much of their security. This emotional support strengthens community bonds and fosters resilience. Another important aspect Obama highlighted was the long-lasting effect volunteerism has on community recovery. After the floodwaters recede and emergency rescue operations end, the process of rebuilding begins. This stage is often the most challenging. People must clean out debris, repair homes, replace damaged belongings, and navigate complex insurance and financial processes. It is during this phase that volunteers play an indispensable role. They help with cleanup efforts, assist families in navigating federal aid, organize donation drives, and continue providing meals and supplies. Obama's recognition extended to these ongoing efforts, acknowledging that volunteering does not end with the disaster. It continues through every stage of recovery. In his remarks, Obama also paid tribute to the resilience of the community itself. He said that the unity displayed in Baton Rouge reflected the true spirit of America. When communities refuse to give up and continue supporting one another, they demonstrate a collective strength that no disaster can destroy. He highlighted how neighbors worked together to rebuild homes, clear debris, repair community buildings, and restore places of worship. Schools, businesses, and local organizations collaborated to ensure the community could return to normalcy as quickly as possible. Obama recognized that this spirit of collaboration was a testament to the fundamental values of the people of Baton Rouge. Obama also emphasized that the actions of first responders and volunteers serve as a reminder that government and citizens are partners during crises. Government agencies can provide resources, funding, and coordination, but it is the individuals on the ground, professionals and volunteers, who carry out the work that saves lives and restores communities. Obama's acknowledgement bridged this relationship, highlighting that effective disaster response requires both structured support and grassroots compassion. His message underscored that national recovery is strongest when government and citizens work hand in hand. He also used the opportunity to remind the nation that investing in first responders and volunteer organizations is essential. The bravery and effectiveness displayed in Baton Rouge were the results of years of training, adequate equipment, community preparedness, and the strong network of nonprofit organizations. Obama's remarks served as a call to ensure that these institutions continue to receive the support they need. He emphasized that first responders must have the tools and resources required to act quickly and safely during emergencies. Similarly, volunteer organizations must be empowered to mobilize efficiently when communities face hardship. Another important element Obama addressed was the broader philosophical understanding of service. He suggested that the actions of volunteers and first responders reflect a moral responsibility shared by all Americans, the responsibility to help one another. He reminded the nation that service is not limited to moments of crisis. It is a mindset, a way of living with empathy and compassion. The examples set by the people of Baton Rouge could inspire others across the country to engage in acts of service in their own communities. Whether through volunteering, supporting disaster relief efforts, or simply offering kindness to someone in need, Obama believed that the spirit of service strengthens the nation's social fabric. In honoring these individuals, Obama also highlighted how disasters illuminate stories of heroism that often go unnoticed. Many people who contributed during the floods may never seek recognition. They may not think of themselves as heroes. They simply acted because they saw a need. Obama saw it as his responsibility to bring these stories to national attention, giving them the recognition they deserved. He understood that celebrating these acts of courage inspires others to act with similar kindness and bravery when their communities face challenges. During his visit, Obama also spoke about the emotional toll on first responders and volunteers. Saving lives, witnessing destruction, and comforting grieving families can leave a lasting impact. Many responders face trauma, exhaustion, and emotional strain. Obama's recognition served not only as praise, but also as reassurance to these individuals that their sacrifices were seen, honored, and appreciated. It acknowledged that the emotional weight they carry is not theirs to bear alone. By publicly expressing gratitude, he offered them a form of emotional support, letting them know that the nation recognized the incredible burden they had shouldered. In essence, Obama's recognition of first responders and volunteers was a tribute to the very best of humanity. It showed that even in moments of despair, there is always hope because there are always people willing to step forward and help. His message celebrated the unity, compassion, and strength that emerged from the people of Baton Rouge. It underscored that the recovery of a community is not defined solely by material rebuilding, but by the spirit and courage of the individuals within it. Through his heartfelt acknowledgement, Obama ensured that the bravery and kindness displayed during the floods would not be forgotten.